Okay, the last part of this lecture on job analysis and evaluation is basically analysis and job evaluation is basically discussion on job evaluation. Okay, job evaluation, basically in this discussion, we're going to talk about three subtopics, which are internal pay equity, external pay equity, and sex and race equity. So most of discussion about job evaluation is to evaluate what is the worth of that particular position, of that particular jobs. Okay, and this evaluation, this process will help the company, will help an organizations to determine what are the appropriate salary or compensation package that they will offer, that they can offer to a particular employee and position. Okay, this is on the discussion part. We are going to discuss it in the next class during live session. Okay, for the job evaluation, what job evaluation means is basically the process of determining the monetary worth of a job. Okay, how much a position worth. Okay, why assistant director is paid less than a senior director, why director is being paid more than the executive officer, why manager is being paid more than the subordinates, why CEO seems like to have less work but have been paid the most. Why? Okay, it's based on the job evaluations. So there are two stages, okay, or two processes that we can conduct job evaluation. One is through internal pay equity, and the second one external pay equity. So how can we determine internal pay equity? So in internal pay equity, it involves comparing jobs within an organization, within a company, within an institution. Okay, so this comparison will allow us to ensure that people in a particular position, in particular job, worth the most money and are paid accordingly. Okay, those who deserve to be paid more receive more salary as compared to those who deserve less. So it sounds simple, but it's quite complicated and quite a challenging task. So the process of determining internal pay equity have to go through at least three more processes, which are the first one, determining compensable job factors. What are the factors that we want to reward? Okay, if a person like to talk, is it compensable? Should we pay him because he likes to talk? Someone who likes to spend times on chit-chatting during works, should we pay them because of that factors? So we want to determine compensable job factors. After we are able to identify the factors, we want to determine the levels for compensable factors. Which one is higher? Okay, creativity or decision making. Which one is higher? The operations or the management. Okay, and then the third stage, determining the factor weight. All of those factors, how much can we supposed to pay in terms of percentage, and it's important to the organization. Okay, for step number one, determining compensable job factors. What are the factors that we want to compensate? Their expertise, their hard working, their times. What are the factors that we want to reward, we want to pay? Okay, the first step in evaluating a job is to decide what factors differentiate the relative worth of jobs. Okay, what are the factors? Okay, what is the difference in terms of responsibilities, tasks and duties and expertise between director and manager, between manager and executive officer, between executive officer and secretary, between secretary and office clerk, for example? What are the differences? So example of compensable job factors are levels of responsibility. Yes, executive officer have more works, but manager have more responsibilities. Physical demands. Okay, what are the physical demands of a certain jobs? Okay, what are the mental demands? Physical demands for executive officer is more, but the mental demands for manager is more. Okay, so they are always difference in terms of the demands. Education requirements. There you don't require a high degrees qualification for executive officer, for example. You requires a higher qualification, hence more time spent for the qualifications, more financial investment put on that. Okay, financial and time investment. And then what are the compensable factors that we can compensate, that we can pay for it? Okay, training and experience requirements. Okay, sometimes it requires more than a degree. Okay, now you heard about upskilling, reskilling after your graduation. So these are all part of training and experiences of requirements. Okay, and then the works condition. Okay, if you know that the bus driver paid almost, okay, no, not almost, express bus driver is being paid more than entry level teachers. Okay, 1,800 for entry level teachers. You can get 3,000 for a bus driver. Okay, but are you willing to be driving for more than 10 hours, 12 hours per day? So it's depend on the works condition. So these are examples of compensable job factors. We need to determine first, what are the factors that we want to compensate, that we want to reward for our employees for a particular positions. So the next step is determining the levels for each compensable job factors. So determining the level for the factor varies according to the factor. Some factors are more important as compared to others. So some factors are easier to determine the levels. For example, level of education. So it's very easy. So do you have PT3 or PMR? Do you have SPM? Okay, do you have diploma and STPM? Do you have degree? Do you have masters? Do you have PhD? So each levels of education is different. Okay, for example, executive, maybe you need for at least degree levels. Okay, for secretary, okay, no need for the degree levels, but the requirement is the diploma, for example. So different levels of compensable factors. Okay, experience, sometimes very difficult to measure experience. So the easiest way is to ask them how many years they have been working. Okay, how many years they have been working in that position, okay, in that kind of professions. So this type of easier compensable factors to measure the levels. But there are some aspects of compensable factors which is quite difficult for us to determine the levels. Okay, the levels. For example, expertise. Okay, professorships is basically the one who are professed in the area. But how do you measure expertise? Okay, you have to look at the outputs that the person produce, books, journals that they produce, the numbers of postgraduate students that they have graduated, that they supervise and graduated, for example, number of people referring to them. It's very subjective, very difficult to determine. Mental demands. How do you measure the levels of mental stress that I am experiencing as compared to medical doctors are experiencing, or as compared to teachers? Okay, is there any ways to measure the levels of mental demands for each works or each professions? Is very difficult to determine. Okay, works condition as well. Some people think that it's easy to work as a teacher. Some people think that it's easy to work as a doctor. Some people think, oh, it's very tough to work as a welder. It's very tough to work as a driver, for example. So these types of work conditions, work environments is very difficult to determine in terms of levels. Why? Because these levels will give an impact. On the compensables factors or compensables levels that the company are willing to pay. Okay, after we are able to determine the levels, we need to determine the factor weights. Okay, how important is the factor? Okay, how the factor and its level, how important to the companies, to the strategic business of the company. Some factors are more important than the others. So the process to determine factor weights, there are 4 processes, okay, or to determine factor weights. The first one determines the total number of points that will be distributed. Okay, this is the common way. Okay, say for example we want to give 200. Okay, these 200 total points will be distributed to all factors. Say for example for lectures we have 5 factors. So how the total weights are 200, for example. So first we need to identify what is the total weights. Second, we need to assign a number of points for each factor. Okay, academic qualification out of how is it important as compared to experience. Academic qualification PhD, for example, maybe 30%. Okay, 30 out of 200. So 30 is assigning to qualification. And experience maybe 20%. So 20. So we are distributing the numbers according to the factors. Okay, but we must not go beyond the 200 that we allocated at the first process. The third process, distribute the points according to the levels of the factor. Remember, we have the factors, we have the level of the factors, we have the weights of the factors. The level of the factors. Say for example, 30% if the person have PhD, 25% if the person have master degree, and only 15% if the person have a bachelor degree. So it's different according to the levels as well. And lastly, compare the points of a job with its current salary. Okay, with its current salary. So say for example, lecturers, they get like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, and when they get the job evaluation process done, they compare it whether we are underpaid or overpaid. Okay, so this is the examples of a completed job evaluation results. Okay, for educations, okay, there are 200 points possible. Okay, if high school education or less, they get 40 points. If they have PhD, they got full 200 points. Okay, responsibility, for example, 300 point possible. If they make no decision, only 75. If they make decision for more than 5 employees, they receive full 300 points. Physical demands, 90 points possible. Lift no heavy objects, only 30. If they lift object more than 100 pounds, so they receive total allocation of 90 points. So this is the process so that we can plot them. Okay, we can plot them. So this is an example of a wage trend line when we want to determine the factor weights and we want to assess whether a particular position is being paid accordingly, or we have underpaid or overpaid. If it is above the lines, is basically overpaying. Below that the line is basically we are underpaying the position. Okay, that is for determining internal pay equity. Internal pay equity. So we have 3 processes: determining compensable factors, determining the levels for compensable factors, and determining the factor weights. Okay, so now besides evaluating the job internally, okay, we can also determine external pay equity. Okay, what is external pay equity? The worth of any particular position or jobs is determined by comparing the jobs to the external market. Okay, to the external market other than our own organization. Okay, external equity is important if an organization is to attract as well as to retain the employees. Okay, remember, pay satisfaction is one of the most important factor for organizational commitment. Okay, the willingness of an employee to stay with the company. If not, if they receive a better offer, they will most likely change their company. To determine external equity, organization use salary surveys. Okay, salary survey. So what is salary survey? Salary survey is basically a questionnaire, a survey of questionnaire. We send it to other organizations to see how much the other organization pay their employees. Okay, how much they pay their employees in positions similar to those that we are doing the job evaluation. Okay, so we need to understand that when we want to evaluate a job and then we want to prepare the compensation package, okay, the salary package, there are 2 types of compensation. Okay, there are 2 types of compensation. One is direct compensation, second is indirect compensation, and both are important for job evaluation and for salary package. For example, in Malaysia, people still regard working in governments as a public servant. Okay, government agencies are still attractive. Why? Beside the salary and the security, because people believe that if you work in a government, you will have a very secured profession, career profession. Basically, it's not depend on the market and what situation. You are secure in terms of your career. And on the other hand, working environments also have other perks or other benefits. Okay, medical benefits, for example, for the incumbent, their spouse, their sons and daughters, as well as their parents. And then they have pensions. Okay, if you don't want the KWSP, for example, you can go for pension scheme. So they are basically indirect compensation. It also gives an advantage. So there are many types of indirect compensation, among others, pay for time not work. Okay, pay for time not work. For example, you have public holidays. Okay, even though you are not working, but your salary is not being deducted because of you not working. Okay, public holidays, you are paid your weekend, Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. In JB we have Friday and Saturday. You are not working, but your salary is still the same. Okay, they are not reducing or deducting your salary. Deferred income, okay, which such as pension, okay, the pension scheme, or health protection, medical benefits, and perquisites. Okay, we call it other benefits. Sometimes people have, if you work for 5 years, okay, as lecturers, you are allocated a time off. Okay, sometimes 6 to 8 months. You can go and do research leave and do not have to come to teach. Okay, to basically improve yourself, refresh, and etc. In my former institution, they have a free Umrah holiday. Okay, even though you go for Umrah for 2 weeks, but it's not going to deduct your leave allocation. Okay, that's also considered as perks. Some companies offers holiday, okay, for their employees. Okay, and about that is basically the two processes that for us to do the job evaluation: internal pay equity and external pay equity. Okay, I know that I do mention about determining sex and race equity. So it's basically, this is the part of issues related to the jobs. Okay, nowadays, like I mentioned before, gender equality, gender fairness has become an issue. Okay, even though not so prominent in Malaysia, we do have a ceiling effects. Okay, whereby people still perceive that women could not achieve higher or highest top position, but it's not necessarily so. We have many ministries, female ministries. We have quite a number of former vice chancellors, female vice chancellors, except that we still do not have a female prime minister yet. Okay, for determining sex and race equity, why it's become an issue? There are some groups claim that female workers are paid less than male workers. Remember, this issue is not in Malaysia. Okay, even though in Malaysia also people believe the same, but this issue has been raised in the United States. Okay, some group claim that female workers are paid less than male workers, and in fact, research has found that on average, full-time female workers in 2013 made only 82.1% of what full-time male workers were paid. Okay, they found that female workers were paid less. However, when they investigate further, research indicates that all but about only 6% of the gap between men and women can be explained by several factors, such as men being the workforce longer. Okay, they stay longer at their office, at their workplace. Okay, they're having higher percentage of full-time jobs and working more hours in a year. So that's why they receive more pay as compared to female workers. Okay, so in order for us to make sure that we are not doing injustice, okay, regardless whether it's to male or female workers, we can use or we can conduct sex and race equity study or pay analysis groups. So the goal of this process or procedures is we want to determine if the average salary for men differs significantly from the average salary for women, and whether the average salary for whites, okay, white people differs from average salary for blacks, Hispanic, and and Asian. Okay, if you refers back to the table that I've shown just now, you can see that Asian have been paid more and as compared to other races. Okay, Asians are being paid more even to the white Americans. Okay, 117% more as compared to white Americans, and whites were being paid more as compared to blacks, and white being paid more as compared to Hispanic. So if you go and work in United States, you will most probably receive more salary there. Okay. So that's all what we need to discuss in this topic. Okay, job analysis and job evaluations. So as a summary and overview, okay, summary in nutshells. In job analysis, we've talked a lot. I think we took more than the allocated times. Okay, supposedly we covered in 1 week, but it's found that I will not be able to cover all of it in one chapter or in one session. So we have discussed on the importance of job analysis. We have discussed on the good format of job description. So we have discussed on what are the aspects that we need to consider while preparing for job analysis, and then we have discussed the common methods of job analysis and the alternative method of job analysis, and we also evaluate, okay, the different use and purpose of these different method of job analysis. And just now we discussed about job evaluations, okay, internal pay equity, external pay equity, and sex and race equity. I think that's all for the asynchronous class. Thank you for watching. See you next time.